As we join with others in our virtual community, isolated in our homes, separated by a pandemic, may we be reminded once again that we are never alone, that we are always connected with each other and the wider world, and with the God of our understanding. Love is the aspiration, the spirit that moves and inspires this faith we share. Rightly understood, love can nurture our spirits and transform the world. May the flame of this candle connect with the light of love in all our hearts, bringing trust and hope to each of us at this unprecedented time in our lives. We're going to sing the first of our hymns this morning, and the first one is in the Sing Your Faith book, and it's hymn number 35, Find a Stillness.
Some of our young people have been working away in the background, and they have two items to bring to us. And first of all, Alexander and Matilda are going to lead us in a prayer. Thank you.
In this time of quietness, at the beginning of our service, and at the end of this year's views, we come to you, Spirit of Truth and Love, and recognize that it's good to take time to think and to listen and to be with people who care about us.
We are grateful for this new day, for the warmer and fresher air which reminds us that summer is coming. We are also grateful for the warmth we can feel in our Unitarian community of faith, which comes from being with friends and worshipping together. We have had a difficult year since we met together at Fuse last year. Our schools, churches, chapels and meeting houses have been closed because of the pandemic. Some of our friends who are older or unwell have been confined to their homes, and we have all been worried, frustrated or sad. And we miss each other. Especially we think of those who are sad about people who have died. We remember and give thanks for these lives. We want to say thank you for our Unitarian churches and groups, and we look forward to meeting again with people who care and who want to make the world a better place. May we all be helped to live well and to show care to others and to our planet.
Well, thank you, Alexander and Matilda, for leading us in that prayer. And yesterday, the young people were working together and they've come up with a picture of a tree of life they've worked on along the theme of our Fuse meetings this year. And here is the picture. If you look at it carefully, you'll see that takes me back to my old botany days at school, I think, where you have phloem and xylem. But in the middle, you have creativity. And creativity feeds down to the roots, and some of the young people have said the things which they feel creative about. Alex, computer games. Matilda, Vampire Diaries and playing with the dog. And playing in the park is in there, and filmmaking, and learning to make pizza as well, all very creative things. And then coming up either side of the tree, they talk about the things which bring them contentment. And I'm sure we're all looking for some of that. And they're wonderfully predictable. Going on holiday is one. And more specifically, going to the Maldives. We're right with you, young people. And then on the other side, they've brought their attention to our theme topic of resilience. And I think it's remarkably telling what they've come up with in a united way. And these young people say what gives them a sense of needing to hang on and to go forward is the thought of seeing their family, being with their wider family. And I think the young people have summed that up for us very well. That's something we all long to do. So we're going to sing again now, and it's in our Sing Your Faith Purple Book number 193. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. And most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive. We believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We're thrilled to hear imagination free running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of a child. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth. And we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one amongst us fills the as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on and on, and we will live in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow, we have the gift to believe, and we believe will with us is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we will live in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a joy to be together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
Well, I hope you were able to sing along at home with that lovely song. Now, at Fuse, in the past, during the celebration service, as well as having our young people, we've had a quick recap on what we've done, and obviously an opportunity to say thank you to those who've been so helpful to us. And I'd just like to mention those people now so that you're aware that quite a lot of people have worked hard to make this possible. And let me preface that by saying that I've just been shown a number to say that there are 205 people at least watching. Thank you for your patience, and we're so glad to have you with us. I obviously want to thank the Fuse planning team, our leaders, Helen, our administrator, who most of you have come across before, who's done our administration and publicity. I think we should mention Francis Tully, who came in towards the end to fill in our Saturday slot, and I know you enjoyed the quiz last night, especially the gang of 4+2 who won. But also a special thanks to Janet Costley and Robert Alton and Stephen Crow, the core members and developers of the programme. Jim Corrigal, who will be becoming the new district minister, will be well served by this team, as I was with a totally different team 6 years ago. And thanks to Liz Hills, who's got the choir together. Liz is our resident musician and has been for many years, and to all the singers who've got their phones out at home and sung and probably annoyed the neighbours as they've tried to get the best they possibly can. And it's been good to sing along with their music. Yesterday, of course, we had our main session with Padraig Tuama, and I know that people were overjoyed to be a part of that. But in the afternoon, we had our workshop activities, and 4 workshops led by Sarah Tinker, Sheena Gabriel, Jeff Jones and Richard Bober, all brought a wonderful sense of continuity and newness to our Fuse this year. And Stephen, of course, has led our devotional sessions and is sharing in this worship session. We've mentioned Alexander and Matilda among the young people, but to their leaders as well, we're grateful. And to the congregation and committee here at Brighton. We hope you think it looks like church again, or chapel, and we look forward to those days. I'm particularly pleased that Jim Corrigal is looking in, and he will be enjoying this opportunity next year. And I want to assure you, Jim, and the whole of the district of my full support as in June Jim takes over and you go forward. I just want us to be quiet for a moment to remember one of our leaders from the past. On December the 16th, Steve Dick, a former London District Minister, International Congress of Unitarian Universalists Secretary and Director, passed away. It was quite unexpected and a huge loss. And I wonder whether in the quietness of your own homes, you will join with us as we remember Steve Dick and all he did for us here in London and the South East, throughout our national Unitarian community and around the world. Thank you all.
So we're coming now to a time of prayer and meditation. I invite you to still yourself. You may want to turn the focus of your attention inwards, bringing it to your heart and breathing into it, into your very centre. And as you do so, picture yourself breathing in unconditional love, breathing it out, filling the space around you with it. And now some words from David Adam. God, we have hidden depths, unseen and unknown qualities. Our secret security and strength are rooted in the firmness of faith. Open the eyes of our hearts to see beyond what is visible. May we sense more than we touch and grasp more than we comprehend. Let our whole lives vibrate with your power, our whole being respond to your presence, for we are always immersed in you. We are surrounded by your deep love. Some of us may find it difficult at this time to find words for our prayers. And there is a prayer within me that just longs for a return to in-person worship, that asks for me to be gifted with acceptance and patience and tolerance, because these I've struggled with in these times. And there's a cry, how long? How long? May I remember in this tender moment that love is my guide, always, shepherding me towards ways of openness and compassion. I have what I need, really, with love at my side, above me, below me, in front of me, behind me, inside every cell of me. Love infused everywhere. Just when the weight of the world I inhabit threatens to drop me in place and press my hope down into the ground beneath me, love invites me to rest for a gentle while and leads the centre of my soul to the quiet, still, restoring waters nearby that somehow I had not noticed. And so love quietly sets me once again on its tender and demanding path. Even when the walls close around me and the cries of death echo through untold corners, gripping my heart with fear and sadness, I know that all will be well, that I will be well when love whispers near to me, glints at the corner of my eye, rests with gentle and persistent invitation upon my shoulders. Yes, yes, love blesses me, even as the sources and symbols of my pain look on. Love blesses me from its infinite well, and I turn and notice that goodness and kindness and grace follow me everywhere, everywhere I go. I live in a house of love, love that will not let me go. I live in a house of love and always will. We give thanks for the gift of love we find in our lives and in this beloved community. We pray for all those who feel the pain of lost love and the absence of love in their lives. May they come to know that they are loved. And so now we'll enter a time of silence. You may want to use this time to offer up your own personal prayers for those in need of them. And there are so many in need of them right now, including ourselves. Or you may just want to be with the silence. May all our prayers be heard. Amen. And now a short reading from Scripture. These words come from Isaiah chapter 40, verses 28 to 31. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not grow faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youths will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. And now it's time to sing again. We're going to sing our next hymn, which is from in the Sing Your Faith book, and it's number 137.
Praise to God, the world's creator, source of life and growth and breath, cradling in her arms her children, holding them from birth to death. In our bodies, in our living, strength and truth are all we do. God is present, working with us, making us creators too. Praise to God, our saving wisdom, meeting us with love and grace, helping us to grow in wholeness, giving freedom, room and space. In our hurting, in our risking, in the thoughts we dare not name, God is present, growing with us, healing us from pride and shame. the Spirit in us, prompting hidden depths of prayer, firing us to long for justice, reaching out with tender care. In our searching, in our loving, in our struggles to be free, God is present, living in us, pointing us to.
Well, thank you for still being with us as we now begin to draw our 2021 Fuse celebration to a close. I'm sorry we don't have Sunday lunch to keep you going for the rest of the day. Although we have tried to retain as much of the format as possible, I know that you'll have missed the physical experience of being together, away from your home, and getting the relaxation of Fuse. Well, I am hopeful and, dare I say, confident that the wonderful Fuse team will be able to resume normal service by this time next year. I know they want to do that, and if they can, they will. 2021 is going to be a year for counting. This time next month will be Census Day, and all sorts of data will be collected which will be useful to our national leadership and, I'm sure, to us as well. And of course, throughout the year, other data will be counted and analysed as we try to work out what we did right and what went terribly wrong as we've tried to cope with the pandemic. But on a rather more cheerful note, 2021 is a counting year for Fuse. This year, Fuse is 10 years old. Of course, it's actually a year older than that because it started under a different name, Light the Fire, 11 years ago. David Usher, the district minister at the time, and a group of others brought Fuse from that cold monastery-type retreat to the Chatsworth Hotel, and it was in 2011 that Fuse was born. I wasn't there, but looking through the records, I found this photo, which was taken actually in 2012. You can see Jana Williams and Kate Buchanan as she was then, now the Reverend Kate Dean from Roslyn Hill, and right in the background by the curtains there's Laurie Culture from Godalming. They look even better today, don't they? Well, Fuse has developed considerably since then. And recently we've broken attendance records every year. This year, even in the pandemic, we've reached a new record. And with our young people, we've exceeded 120 when we include the helpers. So, Jim, I don't want to rub it in, but no pressure there for the future. We've moved venues around a little, and I expect you will again. But most important, I think, is the recent emphasis we've tried to make on making Fuse a specifically spiritual festival. It's about deepening our personal faith experience. And it's proved crucial, and I hope it will be lasting. The emphasis in Fuse now is not about doing things differently. I hope Fuse will always be about growth, but not just numerical growth. It's my great honour to deliver this address today, and I mean that. Our district stands at the start of a new era, and I repeat again how confident I am that Jim Corrigal will lead you well as you rebuild things and go to the things that we love so well. However, our wider Unitarian movement appears to me to be at risk of drawing away from its commitment to religion in the widest sense, the concept of God and the liberal Christian tradition. All of this is fundamental to our object, and to which so many of our congregations in the LDA, LDPA and beyond owe their heritage. So I make no apology for urging you to hold on to these roots, to feed from them, and to reach out to draw others to our liberal religious faith. We looked earlier at the Tree of Life, which the young people were working on yesterday. And they've been thinking about it in this past week. And here's a picture of it again. It's another talk, of course, in its own right. But remember the song we love, written by Caroline McDade, Spirit of Life, where we sing, "Roots hold us close, wings set us free." And this to me is part of the wonder of Unitarianism. Our roots are important to us, not simply because of their historic value, but because they represent who we are. And yet there is a liberality and a freedom for people to fly, sometimes to fly away and do other things, sometimes to fly around and to come back again. But Caroline McDade's hymn or song kind of breaks away from the image of a tree there, because what really falls and flies from trees are leaves and seeds. Leaves fall to retain and return energy to the soil, and seeds fall so that we can regenerate the tree. Acorns become oak trees. And the seeds which we leave behind us as Unitarians, I hope, will be seeds which bear all the resemblances to Unitarianism through the years. And our theme for Fuse this year has been holding the centre, resilience for the journey. And now is the time to be more Unitarian than ever. Yesterday, Padre Gautuama reminded us that holding the centre is not about being on the middle ground. That would make us just like anyone else who wanted to please everyone. That's not actually a Unitarian trait. We do welcome everyone. We know we can't please everyone. Being in the centre means being grounded. And our young people were quite right to have those two aspects in their Tree of Life. One which was rising up and the other which was coming down the tree. To those of you who are fusaholics, and I've become one, you will know that this is part of a series of themes which we have had and have taken us on a journey over the past few years. Some of you will remember when we started talking about the beloved community with Jim. And we were talking about fostering the beloved community. And then Jennifer Kavanagh came and talked to us about sustaining the beloved community. And then we've taken a slight move and talked about finding the centre and taking time for your soul and working from within. And this year, holding the centre, resilience for the journey. This much needed resilience is what the Fuse team has been eager to present at this time of pandemic, a time when we've all been tested, when our resources have sometimes perhaps felt like they're ebbing away. You know, in March last year, I read that some said we could treat this like a pause. It's been a long pause. And come July, even when we were emerging from the first wave, the Fuse team recognised that COVID-19 was not going away quickly, and we would not be pressing that pause button to return anytime soon. And we recognised that people needed reassurance and something about resilience. And so our theme for this year emerged. And I hope that main session yesterday and the workshops have helped you to build your inner strength and to hold the centre which is your spiritual life, the values we hold dear, our relationship with the divine, and our relationships with each other. So where do we turn for guidance at times like these? Have we or other parts of the world been through anything like this before? Politicians lean on recent history and go back to war language. I and my colleagues who are lay leaders or worship leaders or are ministers and lay pastors, we are ministers of religion, and we turn not to the language of enemies and battles and victories, but to the lasting and enduring language of faith and religion. Yesterday, Padraig drew on the story of the feeding of the 5,000 in John's Gospel to develop his theme. I'm not going to take you to miracles or parables or the teachings of Jesus today, though I could. There is much to be learned from them. This morning I want to take you back to the history of the Jewish people. And here perhaps we can find a parallel for where we are as a result of COVID-19. Most of you will have heard of Isaiah. You know all the jokes. He was one of the major prophets of the Jewish faith. In fact, some people even thought that Jesus was Isaiah born again. It's actually generally agreed by the scholars that the book of the prophet Isaiah is actually a book of two prophets who called themselves Isaiah. The first one started in Jerusalem in the 8th century before the Common Era. And he was the kind of prophet who issued warnings. Beware! Take care! Look at this aspect of our nation. Look at this aspect of our personal life. Why do you no longer attend the temple? Well, of course, all was well at the time. But the prophecy which he brought to the people was an obvious one. There were nations all around who were ready to plunder and destroy their way of living, capture them, and use the good they had for their own personal benefit. The second Isaiah came 150 years later. He'd been one who had grown up in the nation of Babylon, and he came preaching a different message. He came not with a message of warning, but with a message of resilience and hope. And our experience is from the happy days of freedom and independence to captivity in our own homes. And so in that sense, we can identify with those first 39 chapters and read them about the things which would come to pass. And of course, the problems have been global and millions have died. But Stephen brought to us the reading from Isaiah 40, which is exactly when the warnings have come to pass and when troubles have taken their toll and when things are starting to look better again. Isaiah picks up from that wonderful song which you will all know and remember from Boney M. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. If you read that song, Psalm 137, you can sense their absolute despair. All that they had lost is terrible. These people were at their lowest. It was 150 years for them. For us, it's just coming up to a year, but I hear people saying, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And like those people, our resilience is almost leached away, not by slave masters and torment, but by a change of lifestyle. And for some, I wonder whether the story of their parents' faith still had relevance. That's certainly what was coming through in the song and the song by the rivers of Babylon. There they were in the fertile plains of Iraq, as we call it now. The river Euphrates and the river Tigris, and as they worked, they would take rest by the water, and sometimes they would be mocked by their slave masters. Sing us some of your songs of Zion, they would say. And I'm sure that for many of those people who'd learnt those songs, they wondered whether it was all something that could never happen again. Maybe the idea of God, which was still with them from what they'd been taught, was actually just a fairy tale or some kind of childhood fantasy and something to forget and move on from. And then along comes this prophet who says to them, he does not faint or grow weary. He gives power to the faint and strength to the powerless. He tells them that their faith is not worthless or in vain, and that the God in whom they believe, in whatever way we may interpret that now, is the one who will bring them hope, and kinder days were coming, and their God would take them back. I am certain that although some people from our churches will have taken their leave of us during the past 12 months, there are many more who will want to come to us because they know us for who we are, reasonable people of faith, a faith which they may have dipped their toes into when they visited us on a Sunday, or for a wedding, or a funeral, or a naming service. And they thought these people kind of understand how to interpret religion for today. And I believe they'll come back because they know we're people of a reasonable faith. And they will come to us probably in their dozens, hoping and ready to make sense of the divine in our time. If ever in recent days there's been a need for prophets, it's now. The kind of prophet like the second Isaiah, not a doomster like the first, not a forgetter like the voice that was within them, but people like us who can be prophets of better days. I say that because that's been my experience. I am so grateful to Unitarianism, which renewed my spiritual walk back in the 90s and made fresh my faith in God and welcomed me back to ministry. Like many, I stumbled into Unitarianism. Here was a group of people like you, who showed the best about God and not the worst about religion. Our Unitarian faith, far from being a featherbed faith for fallen Christians, as Erasmus Darwin, grandfather of Charles, said to his Unitarian friend Josiah Wedgwood. This is not a faith for falling Christians. In my view, it's going to be a welcoming place where many will rebuild or rediscover the meaning of life. The experience of some of these people will lead us to realize that they have been through much worse than we have. And we must show respect for those whose desire for faith may be even greater than ours. Like the Hippocratic Oath which the doctors have been working to maintain this past year, we should do no harm when they come to us. Well, how? Let me end with a story. It's a true story and it's a new story. It's but a few weeks old. And it's a story about the coronavirus. You may have read it. A religious Jew was dying in hospital with coronavirus at the Ha'emek Medical Center in northern Israel. Patient was barely conscious and waiting for his family to arrive to be at his side when he passed away. But because it's winter there and there was a snowstorm, the family were trapped in a traffic jam. There was a male nurse called Mahir Ibrahim. There's a clue. Mahir is a Palestinian. And he was looking after this patient in the coronavirus ward. He knew that the likelihood was that the man would pass without his family getting there. And he knew enough about Judaism to know that it was important for a Jew to hear the prayer which they've learned since they were children as they pass into the next world, whatever that may be, the Shema Yisrael. I've been with patients who've heard that prayer prayed by their families as they die. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one God. His family were making their journey from Netanya to the hospital. Some of you may know that area. It's interesting because it's been a place where Jews and Arabs have fought bitterly. Tourists seldom are allowed to go there. But here we have this scenario where a Muslim is ministering to a Jew at the time of his death. And the nurse says when his daughter arrived, the doctors told her that he had already died. And the nurse saw that emptiness in the family's eyes. And he risked breaking his professional code. He said to her, I don't know if it will be accepted or not, because I'm a Muslim and your father was a Jew. But I want to tell you that in his last moments of consciousness, we said together the Shema Israel. And maybe it will bring comfort to you, so you should know that these are the last words he heard. The next day, the daughter rang the hospital and asked if the nurse was available. She said to him, that act was the only thing in their darkness which brought them light and comfort. What I love about Unitarianism is that we start where people are. And in the world of faith, that is an example of those who have and provide resilience for the journey. To me, it's what we do. We may not be asked to pray with the dying, but we will be asked in our congregations to remember the dead. We can do that, and we can be who we are and what we are. We need to be the people in this coming year and in the years to come who stay true to a faith which allows people to find the choice of peace with God. A God who, although at times we may find it hard to believe in him, maybe he yet believes in us. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. So we're going to sing again, and it's the hymn, Nothing Distress You. It's in the Purple Book, number 106.
Nothing distress you, nothing affright you, you, cast fear away. Follow Christ freely, wisdom will guide you, nothing hath frightened you in the dark way. See the world's glory, fading in splendor, everything passes, all is denied. Look ever forward to the eternal, faithful in promise, God will abide.
Nothing to measure, measureless goodness,
Patient endeavor, run to love's call. Faith burning brightly, be your sure shelter. Who hopes believing, accomplishes all. Envy assails you, it cannot move you. Sorrows may grieve you, faith may be tried. Though you have nothing, He is your treasure. Who one possesses needs not his eyes.
We're just going to have our closing words of blessing, and then after that, I'm going to return you to our host, who will give you the opportunity to get into a breakout room and perhaps have a cup of coffee and finish the day with your friends. So we pray. Eternal Spirit, grant to us the humility to cherish our roots and our heritage. Gracious Spirit, maintain in us that love which is ever conscious of the detail and responds with generosity and joy. Enabling Spirit, inspire us with a vision and a faith which leads us out into our world to do what we can and to be who we are. May the God of your belief and the Spirit of your faith guide you and protect you in health, happiness and love, today and for all the days of your life. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Martin. This is Sheena here speaking. Firstly, just thank you so much, Martin. And I just want to hand over at this point to Michael Allerud, the Vice Chair of the LDPA Council, who would just like to say a few words, Martin, if that's okay. So I'm handing over to Michael Allerud.
Thank you. Yes, it's Michael here, and I have the privilege of counting Martin as one of my ministerial colleagues and have worked with him as Vice Chair of the LDPA Council this year. I couldn't let the day pass without saying a few words of tribute to Martin and thanks. So on behalf of the LDPA Council and Unitarian communities across the district, I'd like to give our warmest thanks to Martin as he shortly embarks on new adventures. He's been a wonderful, truly wonderful support to colleagues and to congregations over the last 6 years that he served us as district minister. Calm, wise, generous, inclusive. These are words that come to mind when we think of Martin. And I want to pay special thanks and tribute to him for the way in which He's stepped up and gone far beyond the call of duty during the last year, as he has held us as individuals and as an LDPA community together during these difficult times as we have struggled with the pandemic. Even on his day off, Martin has been serving as a volunteer chaplain at St Tommy's and Guy's. I think Martin said it all when he reminded us that we can be prophets of better days, that Unitarianism can be a place where we can discover the best of religion. That's a wonderfully powerful message, Martin, on which you leave us as you celebrate with us the last fuse when you're district minister. So it just leaves me to say to you, Martin, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for your stewardship, your dedication, your ministry, and your friendship. Blessings from us all.
Well, I wasn't expecting that. I went out to the control room to have a little word with Stephen and to thank him, and then Michael came on. Michael, your words are more than generous, and I just simply like to say thank you to you all for giving me this great privilege of being your district minister. It's not a job which would suit everyone. It can be lonely. You don't have your own congregation. Often you're only called on when things are somewhat troublesome, or when somebody wants someone else to do something. But it's a great job, and I appreciate having had the opportunity to do this over the last 6 years. I wish you well for the future. You know that I won't be far away, but neither will I be in your hair. Talking of hair, it's time I got mine cut, and perhaps I will once my prophetic role is over. Thank you.